I'll call to order this special meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners here on Monday, August 23rd. And Kim, could you start us with the roll call, please?
Yes. Kathleen Mills,
Here.
Ellen Rodkey. Oh. And Jim Whitlatch.
Here.
Okay, and we do not have Israel Herrera, but we do have 3 and we have a quorum. So we have this special meeting today. As traditionally we hear from Parks Director Paula McDevitt about her budget that she will be presenting to the City Council soon, and we get a preview of that and get to hear about all of the things to look forward to in the parks funding upcoming. So Paula, anything else that we need to mention before we?
No, you definitely gave a nice introduction. Thank you. And I want to thank you all for taking the time this afternoon to attend this special meeting. As Kathleen stated, I traditionally present this to the Board of Park Commissioners prior to presenting it to City Council, so that you have the opportunity to see the work that we have planned for the upcoming year. And I will take you through a PowerPoint presentation. You received in your packet the memo that was sent out to the City Council members last week. In addition, you saw a summary, you have a summary financial report. And the PowerPoint presentation is pretty extensive. We have a lot to say, a lot to share, but it's also our time every year to talk about all the wonderful things that the Parks and Recreation Department does, some of our challenges, and what we have planned for the upcoming year. So I will be bringing up the PowerPoint. All right, just checking in with everybody. Can everybody see this?
Paula?
Yes.
Before we get started, since this is my first budget, can you give me a 2-minute synopsis of how this works, how we know how much is budgeted, what role the city council plays in approving it, that type of thing? Absolutely.
Great question. And I'm glad you answered it because you are our newest board member. And again, this is why it's nice to do this in advance. So this budget preparation actually starts in the early spring with the program units drafting goals for the upcoming year. And then we do a zero-based budgeting process. Staff turn in revenue projections. There are several program areas that generate revenue that goes into the general fund, but also revenue projections in the non-reverting fund. I will be presenting to the Parks Board later this fall the non-reverting budget for 2022. We always do the general fund first. But the process for this is your review and approval today. And then Wednesday evening, I will be presenting to City Council the same presentation. They will have the opportunity to ask questions, either about the work that we're currently doing this year and our goals and budget requests for next year. Then following that, we usually receive some questions from City Council that we follow up on. And then the final budget won't be passed until October. So really this week, it's the jumping off point. This is what we have planned. There's some back and forth question and answer. And then we move forward that way. So it's quite a lengthy process. We're I'd say about 3/4 of the way through. The controller's office is very involved as a city administration. I've met a couple of times with city administration about our goals, and then secondarily about what our budget requests, financial requests will be for the upcoming year. So there's quite a bit of discussion back and forth on that. And then of course the controller's office compiles all of that. The controller will be at the meeting Wednesday night to answer any questions that get really involved. And this year, of course, we've got the ARPA rescue funding, which you will see in my presentation as well. But that financial report that was in your packet is a summary of our 4 categories, and my presentation will be taking you through each of those categories and what our increases are over this year and what particular budgets those increases are in. This is a pretty intensive budget process for our department because all of our program areas, as you're familiar with the financial reports that you get every month, are broken down into their program areas. So we can definitely monitor and know how much it costs us to run each one of our program areas, whether it's in operations, administration, sports, or the recreation division. So this is, again, the first step, and I'll welcome your feedback, Jim, following this presentation, and I think you'll see that it follows a pretty straightforward format for communicating our plans and what it costs to run the department and the size department that we are and the assets that we're responsible for.
All right, thank you. That's helpful.
Sorry, I keep going back. I want to make there. Okay, so can everybody see the title page? So we're ready to get started here. Keeping track of a couple things on my end. Okay, so here we are. I'm Paula McDevitt, the Director of the City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm here this afternoon to present the Parks and Recreation 2022 City Budget. This presentation will take you through why we exist, why we do what we do, and how we do it. And first and foremost, starting out with our mission and why we exist as a department. And that's to provide the highest quality of parks and recreation services and green space to enhance the quality of life in our community. And how we do this work is with 56 full-time employees, 60 full-time equivalent seasonal employees, which translates out to several hundred employees once we are in full season. We are divided into 4 divisions: the administration, operations, recreation, and sports divisions. And some of our major initiatives include recreation and sports programming and events, volunteer and sponsorship opportunities, our asset management, health and well-being, equity and access to parks, programs, and facilities, first parks, trails, and facility maintenance, capital improvement projects, trees and landscaping, and natural resources management and sustainability efforts. We like our infographics in this department. This is a fun way to outline what we're responsible for. Can't emphasize enough the $84 million worth of assets that we're responsible for, all of our play courts, the playgrounds, the programs, the garden plots, our $34 million switchyard park, and 38 miles of trail. Just a little look back at what we've accomplished so far this year in grants and recognitions. As you are all aware, we were successfully reaccredited this past June through the Commission of Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies. And we were able to do that by meeting all 154 standards of operation. So we received a perfect score, and we have been an accredited department since 2001. And we go through that process every 5 years. Some grants and awards, just looking back briefly at 2020, wonderful grant from the Bloomington Health Foundation for the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, and an $80,000 grant from the National Recreation and Park Association for a community hub at Banneker Community Center. And so far this year, we've received 3 awards, all in our urban forestry area, with the Gold Leaf Award, Tree City of the World designation by the Arbor Day Foundation, and Tree City USA Growth Award. So 2020 was a busy year aside from COVID and all that brought, but it was also the year that we had to start our new master plan, and the Parks Board approved a consultant right as the pandemic kicked off, and we were successful in our master plan, which you all have approved. And one of the most interesting parts and a very critical part of our master plan is our community interest survey. And that is what kicks off the master planning process and what we base a lot of decisions from. So my next couple of slides are some key results from that survey. We had 531 survey responses for the statistically valid survey. And that was approximately about 150 more than we had the last time we did our master plan. In addition to that, we had 156 paper copy surveys returned. We spoke to 87 stakeholders representing 25 different community groups, and we had 557 open comments on the survey. So we went through all of that information. And again, I want to share some of the top survey results with you because you will see through the budget process how those are woven into our budget requests. So one of the questions the top 3 facility used, no surprise here, walking and biking trails, large community parks, and green space and natural areas. Those were the top 3. The top 3 social and cultural programs and services, again, farmers market, that is traditionally, it continues to be the top survey response, art and cultural events, and concerts. When we asked residents what prevents residents from using parks and recreation services, not enough time, and I think we can all relate to that, trying to make time in your schedule, but we hope people do, and that we can see that number go down in the next master plan. The number 2 response was personal safety and concern. The park or trail is not safe. And number 3, my neighborhood does not have a park, recreation facility, or trail within a 10-minute walk. We also always are asking our residents how satisfied they are with our programs and services. And this question asks the value that they received. And you can see that in this graph that 83% are very satisfied or satisfied with the value they receive from our parks and programs. When we ask the question, the top 3 most important issues the department must address, a little over 40%, about 45% express connecting trails, that we should focus on maintenance and again, taking care of what we have. And we currently take care of about $84 million worth of assets. And then the number 3 area we should focus on is reduce vandalism and address safety. So the result of the master planning process, the surveys, the stakeholder groups, the benchmarking, came down to these 4 master plan goals. And these are to maintain and enhance the assets and natural resources of the department, reinforce activities and programs to positively impact public health, sustainability, and climate, prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, and develop administrative and staffing capacities. Each one of these goals has a series of strategies attached to them. And from there, we develop our strategic action plan, which all 4 divisions have been working on this year. And it's a plan that will take us through the next 5 years. So just briefly, some of the challenges we faced, impact of COVID. We've kept you very up to date on this. I can say that in 2021, we're seeing a rebound of people attending programs that, for example, while we had to close Frank Southern Center earlier this year, we were able to operate camps at a lower capacity, but still we're able to open camps, open Bryan Park Pool and Mills Pool. We're seeing a nice return of people attending all kinds of community events. But of course, we're continuing to monitor the pandemic very closely and keeping our safety precautions in place. 2 areas that saw a surge of participation despite the pandemic was in tennis. And we saw people out on our courts in record numbers in 2020. And that resulted in about a 500% increase in tennis lessons this year. We used to average about 10 to 15 a session. We are seeing well over 100 people in our sessions this summer. So that was certainly encouraging. And golf, across the country, I think golf is on an uptick, and at our golf course, we've seen a 13% increase in the 18-hole golf course offerings there. So again, being careful, being mindful, but good to see people out being physically active. Another area we focus a lot of effort on is sustainability and climate change practices. A team of our staff from natural resources, from the community events, our health and wellness coordinator, worked with the city team on the city's 2018 sustainability action plan. And if you take a look at this, the Parks Department is throughout this plan in habitat restoration, in tree planting, community gardens, invasive species removal, restoration projects. We are moving towards more battery operated equipment and natural resources programming, getting out in the community, educating our community, and key partnerships like the Monroe County Identify and Reduce Invasive Species. This is a beautiful picture of Switchyard Park and some native plants found by the spray pad. And of course, we're solar. We have been for a couple of years. You will see that in our budget, the lease payment we make on that. And happy to report that as of date in 2021, we have seen $28,844 in savings. Clearly, Twin Lakes Rec Center with their massive roof has a lot of solar panels on top of it. So it's not too surprising to see the high return at that facility. And just briefly touching on some Parks General Obligation bond projects. We are nearing the end of our 5-year bond project list. That funding wraps up at the end of this year, but I just wanted to highlight some of our projects. We opened the Pine Course. We converted all of our fairways at Cascades Golf Course over the past couple of years to Zoysia, and the Pine Course was the last one to be converted. And again, business is great out at the golf course, and a lot of it is due to this investment in our fairways. We resurfaced the tennis courts at Bryan Park. We replaced the playground at Reverend Ernest Butler Park. We also replaced the Winslow Sports Complex trail lighting. The old lights you can see to the left of your screen have been replaced with these new lights on the right. We are currently replacing the playground at Winslow Woods Park. And the Bryan Park Fitness Trail is under design, and we should have a contract to you this fall, and that work will wrap up early spring next year. We are also managing through Bicentennial bond projects. This includes the East-West Trail. This is a trailhead that will be located on Rogers Street across from Switchyard Park. We also have gateway projects. We have both a North Gateway project and a West Gateway project. The West is by Twin Lakes Recreation Center. The North project is the Miller Showers Park. And while these are beautiful designs, we are working with the budget and the costs of these two projects. And of course, we have the Griffey Lake Loop Trail. We just received the bids in last week, and we're working through that process. Again, hope to bring a contract to you here in the next month or so. And the Bicentennial bond contracted tree planting project that, again, we have funding to plant trees. We love our trees, and these maps show where we are currently focusing our efforts to potentially plant 552 trees. That project will take place this spring. But we have used social economic data and the tree canopy covering percentages to zero in on some areas in our community that could certainly benefit from some trees. And another project is the Lower Cascades Park Road Improvements Enhancement Project. That is moving along. Public Works has just approved a paving contract and the installation of 11 speed cushions along that road. We'll be adding some lighting, some guardrails, signage to slow down the speed of traffic down there. And really looking forward to opening up this portion of the road so people can enjoy the slow drive through Lower Cascades. And just briefly, every year we touch on where we are in our current budget year goals. Now, Every program unit, I can tell you, has many, many goals. I am limited by the number of slides, so I have to go through and really just pick one or two for each area. The check mark indicates those goals that have been accomplished, and the arrow is goals that are currently still in progress. So again, have accomplished the reaccreditation goal in administration. In community relations, doing a really great job in securing sponsorship dollars, which during COVID was a struggle to do because we had to cancel so many things, but our community is rebounding, and so far they have generated $42,430 in sponsorships, which allows people to attend our performing arts series for free and keep many of our community events at low cost or no cost. In the operations division, ongoing remediation of graffiti incidents, installing native plants, planting trees, developing 2 interpretive apps, Outer Spatial, which you are all familiar with, very exciting app, and the cemeteries, installing 100 native roses at Roseville Cemetery. So you can see some are in progress and some we have already accomplished. In the recreation division, this is a picture of our Zumba class at Switchyard Park, very, very popular. We have quite the class schedule at Switchyard Park. Community events, all of our garden plots were sold out again this year. We experienced that last year. Community gardening is very, very popular. Allison Jukebox, looking to increase rental hours again in the rebound mode. We were shut down last year. Banneker working on community culture events, and Switchyard Park booking for events with a minimum of attendance of 2,000 people each. And I can tell you Food Truck Fridays is already meeting that goal. The sports division, again, rebounding from being shut down last year. Bryan Park Pool has 2 more weekends left. So we will be compiling our data to share with you. Mills Pool closed a couple weeks ago. Community sports services, we had field rentals, again, rebounding from last year. And continuing to try and book tournaments there. And then Frank Southern Ice Arena, again, a challenging year because we opened up in the fall of last year, but then had to shut down earlier this year. So we're hoping for a big rebounding season in the fall of this year to meet these goals. In the sports division, again, can't emphasize enough the popularity of golf. And renting the clubhouse for 25 private rentals. That's got a check mark because we have already rented it for 38 rentals. So that room is very popular. Twin Lakes Rec Center, trying to maintain the youth basketball program. We're currently registering participants, again, fingers crossed to see that rebound after 2020. And we were able to recruit and partner with the soccer user group to fill capacity at Winslow Sports Complex. So now turning our attention to the 2020 budget goals, same example. Each one of our program areas have several goals that are outlined in your memo. However, for this presentation, I just picked 1 or 2. So starting off with the administration, we'll be working on transitioning our seasonal staff to our electronic timekeeping. Currently, all full-time staff and some of our seasonal staff are using that, but as you can imagine, we have a lot of seasonal staff, so making sure that we are able to get them all on this software. Community relations, very active social media team in this area, so looking to increase the number of followers on Instagram. It's a great way to communicate and share out what we are doing. Operations goals, purchasing the enterprise asset management. Again, I've referenced the $84 million worth of assets that we are responsible for. And while we maintain Excel spreadsheets and documentation and all of the information on all those assets and the history of all of those improvements and projects, this software would allow it to live in one area, very easy to manage, efficient time for staff to keep updated as things are improved, new projects come on, and to interface with some of the other departments. starting a contract for bridge inspections on 10 pedestrian bridges in our system, and replace the RCA Park Group shelter with a new shelter. In landscaping, sustainability area, planting 5,000 bare root native hardwood saplings. Some of this work you may have observed at Alcott Park or Schmaltz Farm Park, but outlining some of these new sites for 2022. And in cemeteries, opening a scatter garden and green burial expansion area at White Oaks Cemetery. And this budget request would be for the design and then the construction of that. In urban forestry, can't say enough about planting trees and pruning trees, taking care of our trees. The Parks Department and Urban Forestry is responsible for not only all the trees in the Parks Department, but for about 19,000 public trees. And there is money in our budget request for contracted services. In instances, it's better for us to contract out some of these tree plantings or tree removals or pruning. And then focusing some attention on some educational events so that we can educate our community on tree care. In natural resources, continuing to facilitate our natural resources program for our NCCSC students and looking forward to getting them back outside in our parks. Completing a prescribed burn. We did that previously last year quite successfully in partnership with the fire department. Still continuing to work on interpretive apps and then doing some formal work on wetland delineation at several of our sites that Natural Resources supervises. At Banneker Community Center, developing the nutrition hub by offering the Get On Board Active Living program and gardening programs for 100 participants. Our health and wellness program area, continuing to ride the popularity of the fitness classes. So initiating a punch card process for attendance there. At community events, increasing the number of the farm vendors at market from 55 that we had in 2001 to 65. And also increase the number of food and beverage artisan contracts from 7 to 12. So nice increase in both vendor groups. And collaborating with the city's Community and Family Resources Department to create a new community event celebration by the fourth quarter. Switchyard Park. The story of Switchyard Park is we were ready to open and go in 2020. And of course, with COVID, that experienced a great shutdown. So we are really what I call in the first year of operation and really realizing the upkeep, maintenance, monitoring of native plants, and just keeping up with the heavy use at Switchyard Park. So a lot of our budget increases are in this area for supplies, personnel, and some service contracts to keep things operating there. But as you can see, the goals are directly related to increasing rentals and reservations at the pavilion, developing new events, and constructing a remote control car track. I don't know if you've been out there, but people like to run those alongside the pavilion. At the Allison Jukebox and Youth Services, again, rebounding, really getting the word out and seeing that building rented and increase the break day participations. Inclusive recreation, also increasing the number of campers with disabilities at Kids City Camp. In our sports division, the golf services, you're going to see a lot of words increase, because we're back and we're open. So continuing to build on the success of this year with our 18-hole rounds and the driving range participations. And at Frank Southern Ice Arena, increasing the public session attendance and increasing our user group hourly rate usage. In aquatics, again, recovering from 2020 shutdown. It'll be really interesting to see what our numbers are this year and then build on those for next year. And at Twin Lakes Recreation Center, same story, recovering. We had a pretty aggressive, successful facility rental program and court turf rentals before 2020. And we saw that obviously decline with the facility being shut down for a big part of 2020. And then again, recovering the numbers at our Bloomington Youth Basketball. In the community sports services, this is where our adult softball program is hosting a national softball tournament. Again, this year, play was down just across the country, so we were not able to host a national softball tournament because there just weren't teams to participate. So bringing that back and continue to facilitate field rentals for tournaments and installing a futsal court at Building Trades Park. And in youth sports services, again, a focus on hosting rental tournaments. That's a really good business that groups come in and rent our facility. They run the tournament, they bring the teams, they bring the players, and we are responsible for the facility. So getting into the categories, we have category 1, and that's where all of our personnel costs are. And our request is $6,296,244, and this is an increase of $517,516, or a 9% increase. And those increases are seen in the full-time staff. Non-union full-time employees have a proposal of 2.75 increase, and our union employees a 2.5% increase. In line 112, this is where all of our seasonal salaries are, and we have seasonal wages increase annually per the Consumer Price Index. So in 2022, hourly rates range from $14.01 an hour, and that is the living wage, up to a high of $15.95 an hour. And those are the seasonal employees that you see at pools, at our rec centers, our camp counselors, our specialists, facility supervisors at Frank Southern Ice Arena, Twin Lakes Rec Center, for example. In category 2, supplies, the request is for $624,509. This is an increase of $81,231, or a 15% increase. And this is where all of our supplies come out of. So you'll see institutional supplies, Switchyard Park, as I said, we're up operational and working, going through those supplies, restroom supplies, cleaning supplies, agricultural supplies, and aquatics to run the pools, golf services, and Switchyard Park. In line 231, building materials and supplies, again, Switchyard Park, taking care of that asset. And 234, other repairs and maintenance. This increase is seen in aquatics, golf services, natural resources, Switchyard Park, and landscaping. And then 242 is our catch-all other supplies, and increase there in community relations, golf services, landscaping, and cemeteries. And I should say too, I highlight in this presentation the program units that are seeing increases. All of our program units have budgeted amounts in these lines, but I highlight those program areas that have new requests or increased cost in these slides. Category 3, other services, the request is $2,458,596, and this is an increase of $361,393, or a 17% increase. And these are all the services, contracted services that we use. In engineering and agriculture, that's $15,000 in cemeteries, and that is for the scatter garden. In 316, we have staff training. So several of our staff hold certifications and are required to go to annual trainings, continue their education, maintain certification. Management fees, consultants, and workshops. Urban Forestry has an increase here, and as I mentioned, that is for the storm plan in the event of big storms and trees come down, an emergency plan. 353, water and sewer. We all know that CBU increased their rates, and of course that's hitting the Parks Department. We fill pools, we keep golf courses green, we have irrigation systems plus all of our facilities. So an increase of $90,040 across the board there. Building repairs, again, operations, it's our catch-all. They take care of all our facilities, parks, trails, shelter houses, and that, and Switchyard Park. Lease payments for our solar panels. These payments have been in our non-reverting the past couple of years, but of course, due to COVID and the number of programs that we had to cancel in 2020, our revenue in our non-reverting saw a decrease. So we have transferred this payment into our general fund request for 2022. And these are all the sites that have solar panels. Dues and subscriptions and operations. Again, that's for the new software and some certification requirements. And then other services and charges, we see increases there in community relations, for video production, the golf course, for their Centerstone contract, for a little extra help out there. Natural resources for a Grippy Lake Management Plan and the burn, and cemeteries for the scatter garden. Category 4, this is a capital request, is for $344,000. This is an increase of $344,000. We didn't have any capital last year. And we have 4 lines here. The first one being improvements other than building for the futsal court and Park Ridge East court repairs, both basketball and tennis. And at the cemeteries, asphalt all interior roadways at Rose Hill Cemetery. And that has been a budget request for several years, and finally making it into the budget for consideration in 2022. A new cargo van for community events. In 442 equipment, golf services, a greens roller and a tractor. Again, taking care of the investment that we've made out there on our fairways, and Switchyard Park, a mower. We have contracted mowing at Switchyard Park, but this is for those in-between times to run the mower right before an event, just to keep it all looking trim and ready. And in line 451, $35,000 for community events, farmers market. These are for bollards at the market entrance at the City Hall site, on both the west and east side of the site. And then finally, the Recover Forward Phase 3 American Rescue Plan funding is $1,060,000. And some of the money here is earmarked for Parks and Recreation for the American Rescue Plan Act for operational revenue replacement. So as I mentioned, we lost quite a bit of revenue in 2022. So being able to fund some of our general fund requests out of the rescue funding. And then additionally, we're proposing an entry-level green jobs program, again, working off the model and the success we've had with Centerstone, but putting together a crew that would be focused on green jobs. So either assisting in landscaping, in urban forestry, out in natural resources, and really offering opportunity for people to explore our field and learn and be trained in several areas. So overall, this gives you a summary of what our budget has been in the past couple of years. And for this year, it is total budget request for category 1, 2, 3, and 4 is $9,723,349. Percentage of change is $1,304,141, or a 15% increase. So again, the presentation is heavy in taking care of what we have based on survey results and what our community has told us, actively recovering from 2020. Taking care of all that we are responsible for, and again, really living for the first time in Switchyard Park. And again, we're only, not all the way through 2021, but learning a lot of what it takes to operate that park. So just in review, these are our areas of focus. It encompasses all of our program areas. We are grateful for the support that we get not only from Parks Board, but from City Council and from our community. And I just want to give a shout out to our staff who have all contributed to the building of this budget, from setting the goals, from staying on top of it, for actively participating in the master planning process that is setting our direction for the next 5 years. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Paula. I was just a couple of thoughts, really. I was thinking that paradoxically, it seems like in some ways, COVID could end up being good for Parks and Rec, on the sense that more and more people getting into golf and tennis and some of the other programs as we hopefully come to the, if not the middle, the later end of dealing with COVID here, reminding people of how important the parks are. And also, secondly, just how I'm always so impressed with your, good stewardship of the taxpayers' money and attention to what people are asking for in the survey, not just a wish list from the department, but, this is what the public says they value, and this is where we want to put our money. And then I think lastly is I just had to look up futsal, but now I know what it is. So I don't know, is that the next pickleball? Or is it becoming popular?
It very well could be the next pickleball. It is definitely becoming popular. We hear a lot from our soccer player user groups that there has been requests to convert a tennis court, but of course we can't do that because tennis is so popular. So we're looking at the basketball court there at Building and Trades. We believe it'll fold in very nicely to the future redevelopment of the hospital site and the diversity of that area. And John Turnbull was actually able to have a visit from the state futsal organizer. So he consulted on that. And so we feel really excited about that potential. I think it's going to be like bocce ball, like we built it and they will come. I'm predicting that same with futsal.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Other board members, do you have any comments or questions for Paula?
I've got a couple questions. One question, and this is well, first of all, the budget's going up 15% this year, and that's a pretty healthy increase. Is that related to the budget was less last year because of COVID? And is it also because we brought Switchyard Park online and that's increased our expenses because we brought Switchyard Park online?
That's really it, Jim, is Switchyard Park. We're also seeing just a lot of heavy use of our parks and facilities. We're bringing on some new trails and just, heavy usage. And, the aggressive work that we're doing with invasive plant management and trees, there's just more work for us to do. That's directly related also to our seasonal staff request. There's a considerable increase in landscaping seasonal employees, and they are the staff that manage those particular projects. So it takes quite a bit of manpower to stay ahead of and to manage invasives and manage all the native plants that we're putting in and all of that. So it's that whole combination. Relates to that.
Thanks. My second question is kind of relates again to Switchyard Park. I noticed that one of the line items was $48,279 for maintenance of buildings at Switchyard Park or something. I can't remember if that's exactly what it was. And I'm just curious what that's related to, since we're still going through punch lists with Weddle Brothers about finishing Switchyard Park. What are the building improvements that are building maintenance that we have to do? Is it related to vandalism, or what is the $48,000 for?
Great question, and I will say we are 97% there with punch list. We're really close. We have a date in the next few weeks on that. But to answer your question, it is related to the heavy use. Some of it is vandalism. A big cost down there is the splash pad, all of the chemicals that it's taking us to run that. Splash pads, until you get in there and run it, it's like, wow. But when you think about it, it's the water that we're using, we have to treat it. It evaporates versus the water in the pools. So all that new water being pumped in there has to be treated before we send it up the chutes that the kids love. But having said that, we are getting incredible usage at the spray pack, and it's free. And every community event that we have there, that part of the facility is being used. So it all equates to just the incredible numbers that we're seeing down there, the institutional supplies that it takes, and wear and tear. Again, we're just getting our feet wet, but basketball hoops, I know have broken at least once from heavy use, maybe misuse. Yeah, it's a one. We're really thrilled with all the usage, but it costs to keep it running, and we knew that was going to happen. It's just the state of and the size and all the amenities that we have there. But usage far outweighs all of our maintenance requests and keeping up with everything.
Okay. Last question or comment, and this is maybe a comment and maybe a question for us to think about with the budget, but I noticed on the survey that the number 2 reason for not using the parks was safety. And I also noticed on the survey that of the problems, 33% felt that reducing vandalism and safety was 33% felt that was a major issue for the park. So, and then we had the issues that we're addressing related to that survey, but none of those, and some of this has just come on recently before that, the goals were done, but none of those goals were improving safety or reducing maintenance directly. I'm sure much of what we're doing involves that. So I guess my question is, how is safety and vandalism addressed in the budget? And we know that this year we had some extra money to hire private security, but what happens in this budget, or what happens next year to that, since that problem does not seem to be going away?
Thanks for your question. Great question. And great point that we will make it a goal. Again, this was sort of unfolding this year, and our goals were being developed before it really hit the height that it did this summer. But funding to address that is actually in the rescue budget. My very last slide there, we took some of the costs out of operations and Switchyard Park, of which Centerstone and the contracted security was in general fund. And those expenses have been swung over to the rescue funding that was on my last slide. So it is in the budget. It's just living in that funding bucket versus the category 3. So we are planning for it, and it is directly related to our survey response. We got that survey information back, and then it sort of heated up this spring and summer. And because of the approvals that you gave for our current contracts and the coverage that we have and the reporting that we're getting, it's been really helpful. So we are definitely planning for it next year.
Great, thank you. I appreciate all the hard work that everybody's done on the budget, and look forward to seeing all this implemented over the next year.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just echo my gratitude. Thank you all for all the work that you do to put into that. It's really nice to see, I think, the goals that are set and then how that relates to the budget. I was curious, when you look at the 4 goals of the overall strategy, the 5-year plan, do you kind of keep a measure of when departments are setting their individual goals of like how many kind of relate back to that, those 4 overarching is, yeah. And then from that, is there also a measure of the budget in how each of those 4 goals is sort of reflected in the, like what percentage of the budget is kind of going toward that goal, which I know could be like a lot of overlapping, but just kind of curious.
No, great question. So we start with the 4 goals, and then there's strategies, and then it gets down into the strategic action plan. And staff already, obviously, our master plan started this year in 2021 through 2025. So they have actually started and put a lot of what you see in this budget in the strategic action plan. They had to look forward to the next 2 years, 3 years, and 5 years. So it does relate back. And there was often times when we were preparing this budget, we're like, oh, that fits under goal number 3, or that is perfect for goal number 2. Goal number 4, for example, looking at our administrative and staffing capacity, our HR department has a contract to do that work, and they've been doing those reviews with city departments for the past couple of years, and our department is slated to be assessed next year. And in my conversation, it was like, oh, perfect, that fits right under this goal number 4. Our diversity and programming, for example, one of the goals is to work with community and family resources on an event. So it is so closely and directly related. You're absolutely right. Now, doing that overlap with the budget would be also a great step to take. As part of our accreditation process, we have to bring that strategic action plan to the board, and we will, to show you all of our plans and our timeline and a status report of our accomplishments. So it all interrelates and overlays and is tied to that. They are our 4 guiding principles, goals that sets us up for all of this work.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I remember that from maybe prior year, like last year, seeing the goal measurement and then like which strategic priority it like tied to, and sometimes it's multiple. So yeah, that's really great. And I guess I was just thinking, it'd be nice to sort of measure a little bit of almost doing that same thing with the budget, like all the dollars spent, if kind of showing like where they go back to those, like over those guiding kind of principles that we have from now through 2025. So, but yeah, it's great. And yeah, I think the theme is recover and increase, because there's so much good stuff that we've learned about people's use of the parks in the last year. I mean, like to Kathleen's point of, it's been, our parks have been heavily used this year, and it's not a bad problem to have. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Paula, I just had one more question that I'd written down before I forgot to ask you. The bollards at the farmers market site, we had approved something else previously that was like sort of temporary. Weren't there some other sort of setup there? And I guess my follow-up to that is this a safety related thing, or is it just to delineate where the area of the market is and the...
Sure, great question. Thank you. This actually came down from the Homeland Security, that they do an assessment of your site. So you are correct. Several years ago, you approved the purchase of the big limestone blocks that are outside. And when we first got that feedback several years ago, our first immediate move was out on the plaza. And if you look out there today, we moved some planters and intersperse them with the blocks. And then the second phase of that was the limestone blocks further north. And these bollards are for the entrance. If you come to market today, you will see that we have been parking city vans, our vehicles in those entrances. And it is absolutely a safety protocol. And we've always wanted to be able to, the vans, vehicles, don't look, just, I mean, they're there and staff drive and put them up there, but these bollards would be the kind that would mechanically come up and down. And that will be, useful for other community events that as we, as a community, recover. And some of those events for the community organizations that use this site for their events, they would be in place for them as well. I'm thinking like Taste of Bloomington, for example, in that. So it's definitely a Homeland Security request and feedback that we received from them.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. So if we don't have any other questions or comments, anything
I
else?
move-
Yeah, go ahead. Jim.
I move that we approve the budget as presented.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Do we need to
Aye.
do a roll
Yeah,
call?
do it too.
Oh, yes, the roll call vote, yes.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
That's 3 ayes, unanimous for members here. So thank you, Kim. And thank you for giving us a chance to preview that before you share it with the city council on Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback and your questions. I'll welcome any other feedback that you have. And I formally invite you to Zoom into our budget hearing Wednesday evening, this Wednesday. Hearings start at 6 o'clock. We are the 4th department. So I go on a little bit later in the evening, but you can easily monitor it via Zoom, and I'll send you that link that I just received today. So if you're on, I will certainly introduce you to the council before I start my presentation. But thank
Okay.
you as always for your support and
Great.
feedback. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paula.
All right. And if there aren't any other reminders going forward, then I'll adjourn this special meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.